There's a saying my grandfather used to repeat. A man's land is his castle. Enter uninvited, and you answer for it. That lesson came into play one sticky summer evening when the HOA decided to turn my farm into their private event space. It was a Saturday, and I'd spent most of the day working in the fields. By the time the sun dipped low, all I wanted was a cold drink and a quiet evening on the porch. But as I walked toward the house, I heard something odd. Music. Loud, thumping music. I frowned. The sound was coming from my shed. When I opened the gate and walked closer, I nearly lost it. My shed had been transformed into a full-blown party hall. Strings of lights were strung across the rafters. Folding tables were lined with food trays. A portable speaker blasted pop music. And packed inside were nearly 24 HOA members, laughing, drinking, and treating my shed like it was their community clubhouse. I stood there, stunned. My feed bins had been pushed aside to make room for coolers of beer. My tractor keys were dangling dangerously close to the punch bowl. And worst of all, Karen, the ever-entitled HOA president, was standing front and center, holding a microphone. "Welcome, everyone, to our monthly association gathering," she declared. "See? Much better than renting a hall. This shed is perfect." I finally stepped forward. "What the hell is going on here?" The crowd went silent. Heads turned. Karen's smile faltered, but only for a second. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said, waving her hand. "We needed space, and your shed was the most logical option. You weren't using it, anyway." My voice dropped low. "This is my property. You broke in." Karen smirked, her voice dripping with arrogance. "Technically, it's for the good of the community. And besides, nobody's getting hurt. Stop acting like it's the end of the world." The crowd chuckled nervously. Some of them actually raised glasses like this was normal. That's when the fury inside me finally boiled over. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. Instead, I calmly walked back toward the barn. Because if they wanted to party in my shed, then fine. I'd give them a party they'd never forget. I swung open the side gate to the pasture, and out came the real guests. A pair of my 2,000-pound steers and a half-dozen goats. They were massive, restless, and curious about the noise. I gave a sharp whistle, and they lumbered toward the shed. The moment the animals entered, chaos erupted. A goat leapt onto the snack table, sending bowls of chips flying. One steer brushed past the folding chairs, toppling half the crowd. Another pressed its nose against Karen, pinning her against the wall as she shrieked in panic. The music kept blasting, only adding to the madness. People screamed, drinks spilled, and someone fell headfirst into the cooler. My animals weren't aggressive, they were just big. And in a packed shed full of panicked neighbors, that was enough to cause mayhem. I leaned against the fence, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. Finally, Karen's voice rose above the din. "Get them out! Someone call animal control." I smirked. "Funny. You didn't ask my permission before barging in here, but now you want me to clean up your mess." Her face turned red. "This is dangerous. They could hurt someone. Then maybe you shouldn't have thrown a party in my farm shed." Within minutes, the HOA members bolted out the doors, tripping over each other in their rush to escape. Some left shoes behind. A few abandoned their plates of food. And Karen? She darted outside, covered in hay and dust, screaming that I'd endangered the community. By the time the last guest fled, the shed looked like a tornado had hit it. My steers wandered back toward the pasture, munching calmly on some spilled vegetables. The goats were still perched on the tables, happy as kings. I walked inside, grabbed the microphone Karen had left behind, and announced to the empty room, "Party's over. Don't come back." The next morning, Karen showed up with 2 HOA board members, trying to scold me for reckless behavior. But I had already installed trail cameras that caught everything. Them breaking in, setting up the event, and ignoring me when I confronted them. When I showed them the footage, their smug expressions vanished. I told them flat out, "Set foot on my property again, and I'll press charges. And this time, the animals won't be the only ones you'll have to worry about." From then on, the HOA never tried to use my farm for their gatherings again. In fact, word spread so fast that whenever anyone suggested Karen's bright ideas, people groaned and reminded her about the Great Shed Stampede. To me, it was simple. If you trespass into my shed, you deal with my livestock. And trust me, my animals know how to clear out an unwanted crowd faster than the police ever could.